Tune into the Don't Tap podcast. I'm about to beat the shit out this kid.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number one rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework, you know what I mean?
But this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
He did not tap.
Let's go!
Let's go!
I like the new change to the main event, to be honest. It's quite interesting. The lines aren't out on it yet, but for those of you that don't know, the main event for UFC Fight Night has now been changed, and we got Sean Strickland in the mix, an angry Sean Strickland in the mix, a man who I think maybe won the last fight, and a man who wants to prove something. So it's very interesting. We have a new main event for the UFC Fight Night. Sean Strickland, Nasruddin Imavov. Happy New Year to everybody out there in Don't Tap Land. We are back, and we are back in full force. We are back, and we are now announcing a new partnership. I know that you're pretty excited about it, Nick. I am as well, too. We are now with Betstamp. So Betstamp will be part of the process. We will be trying to not only help break down fights, but let's really focus this year on finding the right spots. Let's focus this year on me and you getting better at capping things and picking the right spots actually from a betting side and not just being guys who break down fights. If we're going to put out information into the universe, let's get better. You know, MMA Twitter, they don't put up with bullshit. And that's very apparent in what's gone on in the past little while. That's some bullshit. I'm not even going to get into, it's like Santa Claus doesn't exist anymore. I find out with this whole MMA Lock of the Night fiasco, but it also did make me realize, like, the reality is this is a game where people are going out there, putting their hard-earned dollars into things. And some of the people just listen for entertainment, listening to our podcast. But as we get bigger, we need to get better. So I think we need to get more focused. I think we need to be able to, the time that we do have, because we do have day jobs, let's focus in on spots. Let's get better. I'm going to start leaning on some guys that I've really reached out to in the industry, some gamblers and MMA guys that I really, honestly, they're solid. So anyways, with that, without further ado, let's dig into the new main event. We don't have the lines yet. Sean Strickland, 25-5-0 against Nasruddin Imavov, 12-3-0. Let's go. So Sean Strickland coming in off of his decision loss. And what did you think of that fight? Do you think he won that last fight?
Yeah, man, as somebody who was on the Jared Cannonier side, I did not think Jared Cannonier won that fight. When they ran the decision, I was pretty shocked by it.
Yeah, I think Sean ran the right stand-up game plan, and a lot of the shots were sort of glancing off his shoulders. There was a lot missing him. He managed it well, and he takes shots well as well too. So I don't really see how the judges could really lean that way. They're really looking at big shots. That's apparent, obviously, right? You can't even be not only a wrestler, but you can't be a guy that lands volume anymore, even if your volume has intent. So I'm definitely, out of the gate, because we don't have too much information on this. We know that Nasruddin's got not superior. He has solid stand up. Also, the grappling is going to be the play. But with Strickland, man, he's got the practice of being in there nonstop. He's constantly sparring. His distance control is like some of the best. Sure, against Pereira, he looked foolish the way he walked into that. 100%. But the guy knows how to strike. The guy's been there. And I can't wait for this line to drop. What do you think the line's going to look like? And what's your breakdown on this fight?
I think it's going to drop at a pretty close line. Like, I think a lot of people have the anticipation that it's going to be a closer fight than people expect. The only line that I'm seeing right now is -105 for Imavov and -115 for Sean Strickland. So that's kind of where I thought it would land. Like, I think most people expect this to be very, very close. I think it's going to be Sean Strickland, though. I think that as this fight goes down the stretch, I think that Imavov, although will probably win the first and second round, I think we saw cardio issues in the Joaquin Buckley fight. And unfortunately, like, for Gastelum, he probably would be able to be a little bit more patient in how he approached the fight. But Sean Strickland kind of has like the Nate Diaz, like, cocky attitude where he's not going to give him the opportunity to have a slow fight. And he's good at working.
Can you see that phone call?
Yeah.
Sorry. Can you see that phone call though? He gets that phone call and it's like, so Sean, we have a short notice fight. We know you're a little pissed off and you want to, redeem that judge decision. Also, it's 5 rounds. It favors you drastically. Want to take it? Like, what's his response? He's just licking his chops right now.
Yeah, side of me, and this is off topic here, but I think that Dana White probably called him and was like, dude, I just need you to say some obscene shit to get me out of the limelight right now. He's like, who can I put in front of a microphone
Not a
that's
bad
going to
take.
say some dumb shit to get the heat off me? They're like, dude, we'll give you an extra $500,000. Just get out there, say some dumb shit.
And then it backfires because Sean says something even worse. I'm not even touching. I don't even want to touch that one. I don't agree with it. I don't think it was right. Actually, I'll say it. Fuck it. I got to say it because there is people here that probably listen that need to hear it. You know, Dana White is someone who, as a promoter, has done an amazing job. Dana White is a promoter that, you know, has brought the UFC to levels. But you don't put your hands on a woman, plain and simple. And the reality is, alcohol is being used as an excuse. But here's my thing: someone coming from the background that I come from, knowing everything that I know about where I've been and the abyss that I lived in for a long time, never put my hands on a woman. So I'm sorry, man. They're just no excuse. There's no excuse for it. I know that he has already sort of owned up to it to some degree, but I think more needs to be done with that. But we'll leave that one where it is and get back to the breakdown on this. I think you're sort of right. That would be not a bad angle. Sean Strickland comes in and says some obscene shit on Twitter, and then it gets blown up on Twitter, and definitely could be interesting. I think Strickland's jiu-jitsu game is going to be enough to keep this, you know, out of the grappling realm or at least off the cage. And he's enough of a guy who's opportunistic. He's going to land, and he will make you work. And then, you know, once that 2.5, like as soon as that 2.5 round mark hits, I think it's night time. I think there's going to be investment in the body. I think there's going to be some shit here. So, yeah, give me some Sean Strickland. And you know, this fight, I don't know if it's going to see the distance because of its short. Like this is more of a narrative, but I don't think Strickland wants us to go to the judges. So you know, either he goes in and waits a little bit late to pour it on, but I don't think this is going to the judges. I think this is going to be finished. I think he's going to be pissed off, and I know it's a little bit narrative, but you know, if you don't want to run the narrative, at least go money line Strickland, all day long.
I like it, man.
Next
I'm on the exact same
fight,
page.
yes, sir. Next fight on the card, we have the co-main event, and a fight I guess I probably have an angle on. I actually had a chance to catch up with the man, Damon Jackson. He comes in to fight Dan Ige. So Damon Jackson, 22-4-1 against Dan Ige, 15-6-0. It's no, you know, no mystery what Dan Ige presents. He has a solid stand-up game, solid boxing with that jiu-jitsu game in his back pocket if he needs to. Coming up against the guy Damon Jackson, who is just thriving right now, right? Like, so right now, Damon Jackson coming in as a slight dog, plus 102 best bet, or best line that you can get at Unibet. We have Dan Ige at slight favorite at minus 112 at Pinnacle. This matchup, man, sure, like I was saying, we have Ige on the feet with the jiu-jitsu in his back pocket, but we have the guy in Damon Jackson who people sort of, I don't think they shit on his stand-up. And I, even when I talked to him, I maybe should have referenced his stand-up better, because the reality of his stand-up is if you watch tape on him, he's got that sneaky round kick that he hides over his shoulder. Looks a little bit more like a Carlos Condit type approach, and solid stand-up. And he's got power, man. Like, I mean, his last fight shows it, what he did to Pat Sabatini. So for me to see dog money, I hope more money does come in on Ige, but I think this line is sort of going to sit where it's going to. I think that Action Jackson is going to come in and just push pace. One thing he said in the podcast that was very that was very clear was he's done with judges. He's going to push pressure, and he showed in his last fight, and he's going to try to get you out of there. So another thing they might want to look at is fight doesn't go the distance. If Damon Jackson wants to press it on and try to land those big shots, if he gets a top position, man, jiu-jitsu is not going to be playing anywhere in that. It's going to be heavy shots. And I think that his wrestling and his striking is going to get this one done. What's your take on this one? Damon Jackson, 22-4-1, surging against the 15-6-0 with, you know, Dan Ige, like I said, pedigree of boxing and jiu-jitsu, and also levels, strength of schedule as well as is there as well too.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on this one again. I like Damon Jackson a lot in this spot. I'm kind of surprised the line flipped, but I've heard a lot of other cappers talk about Dan Ige in the spot, and a lot of people I know are backing him, and I get it, but I just personally don't see it. Dan Ige is not a guy that I'm a huge fan of. I think that he's got crazy power and will definitely like to engage in like a firefight. But, like, you know, he won a split decision over Edson Barbosa 3 years ago. Edson Barbosa's kind of been at the tail end of his career. So his best win is over Mercer Bektic. And once again, like, you're going back a lot of years. Like, yeah, he's been fighting the upper echelon. in the division, but he hasn't been looking good against any of them. Like none of these fights were close. So just because he's facing the higher end of competition doesn't necessarily mean anything, because once again, like the fights aren't close. So his only good win in the last 3 years is over Gavin Tucker, which even then, like, where's Gavin Tucker right now, right? But
I almost feel like everybody is sort of, it's almost like a fate of the stand-up of Damon Jackson. They're thinking that, there's going to be some power. That's why the money sort of shifted, because if you look at the tape of Ilia Topuria over and over again of Damon Jackson getting knocked out, it's like, okay, he got caught. It was Ilia Topuria, a guy who has a huge amount of power. So I think that's why the line's going one way or the other. But that's like 5 fights ago, right? That's 5 fights ago, and Damon Jackson's stand-up is already it was already at a level. He just got caught. Fighters get caught, and I just think that when you have a guy who is likely going to be opportunistic on the ground with his strikes and has that top-heavy pressure, I'm just going to go with the guy that fights. Like when I told him straight up, you're a guy to bet on, because you're gonna dig deep. You're gonna run that cardio. You're gonna outwork guys. Like he's a trainer, right? So he's training guys. His body is his temple, even more so than most fighters, because he looks at it from a trainer's standpoint. So I just think Damon Jackson all day in this one. I hope the line continues to move towards Ige. That way we can get some more plus.
I think it will, man. It seems to be, especially as I've been listening to a couple other people, and as podcasts roll out, I think it's going to kind of force that line a little bit more, because a lot of people seem to be backing Danny Ige. But as I said, I'm not in the spot. I think Damon Jackson gets takedowns and gets a finish, as you said, or decision in this spot.
I think the way I'm probably going to look at it is, I thought about Damon Jackson potentially by a finish and decision, but there's just no way, because he could finish it by a submission and or striking. So you got to look at it from one way or the other. And it's like, I think you go Damon Jackson money line, and then you go fight doesn't go the distance as a shot. And that's the way you play this one. But we will take a look at that officially, how we're going to play it later on. Next fight on the card, we have Punahele Soriano coming up against Roman Kopylov. Punahele Soriano 9-2-0. Kopylov 9-2-0. Kopylov, a guy that a lot of people were sort of writing off, came in with big hype and sort of didn't live up to it. But his last fight, he looked pretty damn good to me. Punahele Soriano, a guy, it just seems to be a little bit lower volume, big power, and sort of waits for his shots. This is an interesting, actually, setup for a striking battle. So we have Soriano coming in at -156 at best bet at Pinnacle, and we have Kopylov coming in at +135 best bet at Caesars. Take it away. What's your thoughts on this one? I think, honestly, I want you to take the lead on this one, but I think I'm going to likely lead Kopylov and go with the momentum of his last fight. But what's your take?
Yeah, honestly, I like Roman a lot in the spot. I think you're getting good plus money on a guy. I think this is one of the fights that's a little bit more like on the value side of what you're getting, with a lot of the bloated favorites on this one. Because I think with Roman, like, he's a lot more technical in the striking, right? Like with Soriano, man, the guy just wings shots, and he's a big muscly dude. He looks the part. But like we see with all these big muscly guys, like, that takes the wind out of his sails. In Roman's last fight, man, he's throwing good body kicks, working the body, and he kind of, from like a kickboxing background, where he's not scared to point fight. Like, he's not scared to just go in there and try and get the finish, which is what Soriano tries to do. So I think Soriano definitely has a chance of clipping him early. But as this fight extends, I think Roman's just going to take over and probably get a late TKO in this one. I definitely like the under in the spot, though.
Yeah, under's a good look in this one. I'm with you on this one, Kopylov, and I hope the line continues to grow, because I just see he just has straighter shots. And although, Soriano does have that power, it's just like in time, he's just going to get picked apart and then put out, I think. That's just sort of how I see it.
If you watch the Brendan Allen fight, man, like Brendan Allen, who is not a good striker, was piecing up Soriano. It's a very, very bad look. Where with Roman being actually a very technical striker, I don't think he'll have any issues in this spot.
Next fight on the card, we have Ketlin Vieira coming in 13-2-0 against Raquel Rocky Pennington 14-8-0. This one, the line is pretty even right now, actually. We have Pennington coming in at +102, best bet 99, and Vieira coming in at -110, best line at Caesars. So we look at it pretty evenly matched up as far as the line goes. As far as strength of schedule, obviously, we know we've always talked about Pennington and her strength of schedule. She's fought the who's who, not quite, always going to be the bride, not quite, or bridesmaid, not quite the bride. But in that being said, she's gained so much experience, and she's not the case of someone who's fought some of the higher echelon and then she's not good, not that good. She really is that good. Like her grappling, her cage work, her striking is there. But I don't know if this is a spot for her, man. I've been back and forth on this one because Ketlin Vieira is someone who I didn't really like to back in the Holly Holm situation. After that, I think that was a bad decision. But at the same time, her striking's there, her grappling's there. She is surging. She's young. She's powerful. And I mean, even a line that was pointed out by Johnny, Ladies and Locks. I think it was John that pointed it out in the chat. Like plus 2,500 was it for KO for Ketlin? Can you check that for me?
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I mean, I think I could see it. I definitely, that's something I could see. And that line just absolutely crazy. I could see her catching Rocky and dropping her. But at the same time, I think you got to go to the well, right? I think you got to go to ROI. I think you got to go to someone who has the strength of schedule. I'm leaning Rocky in this one. I just think that in some of the grappling exchanges, she's just going to be trickier, be able to score where she needs to score. But I mean, this is also a fight you could isolate. I think that honestly, if Vieira wins, I think it likely will be inside the distance. I don't know if it'll be by decision. It all depends on obviously the judges and everything and who it is, but Rocky gets some nods. So I'm leaning Rocky, but I wouldn't hate you if you went the other way. And I don't know if I'm going to make it an official play at all. I have in the past, but this is a big fight.
Yeah, hopefully we'll start disagreeing on at least a couple of them. But I'm with Rocky on this one too, man. Vieira, my own issue, she wins fights she shouldn't win, and then she loses fights she should. The tape on this one was kind of hard to watch. I lost a fair bit of money whenever she lost to Holly Holm. In a very, very, I didn't lose a lot of money, but I could have made a lot of money in a decision that definitely should not have gone her way. I think with Rocky, man, I think that she'll just be able to do what she does. She'll do the pressure thing. Like, Ketlin Vieira doesn't like to be pressured. And at the end of the day, I think the way this fight's going to go is going to be whenever they meet in the middle of the cage, who's really going to be able to control that. Because they both like to be going forward. Raquel Pennington likes to push people up against the cage and just do work. And that's it. Ketlin Vieira has a relatively similar style. So I think this fight is probably going to decision, although I said that plus 2,500. Can't hate anybody for taking it, but I think the over is probably the best way to play this one. But from a pick perspective, I side with Raquel Pennington.
Yeah, I think over is a good spot. Obviously, that is a tried, tested, and true line, but at the same time, I think we got to agree on that one. Rocky wins this one. Next fight on the card, we have Umar Nurmagomedov against Ioni Barcelos or Barcelos. I think it's Barcelos. So we have Nurmagomedov coming in at 15-0 against Barcelos, who's 17-3-0 and who's been up and down at times and shown some great things in the cage. But against a guy like Umar Nurmagomedov, I don't know if it's going to be the play for him. Same time, the line is the story. Right now, Umar is coming in at minus 667, best line at Unibet. And then you get Ioni at plus 500 right now at Bet99. That's the best line you can find on him right now. For me, man, I just think that obviously it's a stay off, but when you have a guy like Ioni Barcelos who has that little bit of Wanderlei Silva in him, that little bit of power with those crazy, just a moment where he maybe could clip him. I wouldn't hate anybody who wants to be a degen and touch the underdog. Am I saying that he's going to have any moments, like big stretched moments in this fight, or where he's winning, exchanges, or where he's, winning points? No, I don't think so at all. It's going to be a Hail Mary situation where he catches him with a hook or catches him with an uppercut. But Umar is the side here. I'm just not touching him.
Yeah, I can't really add much more to that, man. Like, the thing with Ronnie Barcelos is that I think he should have entered his UFC career at a much younger age. I think a lot of people share that opinion. He's very talented, but you've seen definitely a steady slowdown in his UFC career. And yeah, he looked good in his last fight, but he looked good against Trevin Jones, where he's really KO or bust. So going up against a guy that's very good stylistically again for that fight, it doesn't really say much, to be honest. I think Umar gets it done and probably gets it done by submission. But I don't know. I wouldn't touch this fight with somebody else's money.
No, I mean, like even to try to find a way that Umar wins is just a bad approach to this. If you're going to take the dog shot and know what you're getting into, because that's what you're actually going to try to do based on a moment, that's up to you. But the reality of the fact is to try to dig for something on this is just ill-advised. Next fight on the card, we have Abdul Razak Al Hassan, the guy you can never gauge, against Claudio Ribeiro. Man, this is going to be some violence. I'm a little excited for the violence that's going to come out of this one. Let me just pull it up here. So we have Alisson 1-4 in his last 5 fights. Obviously, he's fighting for his career right now, fighting for his contract, I would imagine, at this point. He is minus 107 at Pinnacle right now, best odds. So obviously, we're at a pick him right now. Pretty much minus 105. Ribeiro coming in at Caesars. He's 5-0 in his last 5 fights. And the reality about Ribeiro is there's a 4-inch reach advantage. I don't like that in this fight. I really, really don't like that in this fight. You can take this one away. I think the fight doesn't go the distance, might be a play on this one. Both that guys have power. Both guys have striking, and both guys can land. What's your take on this one? I'm likely leaning Ribeiro, but take it away.
I'll back Alisson for one last time. One more trip around the sun with this guy.
All right.
I think with Ribeiro, from the tape that I can see, is that he's getting people out of there. He's getting them out of there early. But, like, he throws wild. And to me, that's just, whenever you got two guys there, with Alisson can be more technical. Like, that head kick that he landed on DeCrico there was absolutely disgusting. Like, I think he definitely has the better striking and the better technical striking. And he actually has a grappling background, which won't mean anything in this fight, but it's just worth noting that if he decides that he wants to go out there and push him up against the cage and kind of, suck the muscle out and make him have to work a little bit to take away some of the power, the ability probably is there. But I agree with you, man. I think the under 1.5 is probably the play. It's probably juiced up to like minus 300. But odds are those two dudes are going to meet in the middle, and whoever lands first is probably going to win this one.
Yeah, I think and even going off what you're saying there, I think Alisson's path to victory here is to use his striking to push him Ribeiro up against the cage and try to get that hip in there. Use it like a judo hip toss, get him on the ground, and just rain hell, right? Like, I think that's it right there. I think that's the best way to do this, to try to stand with him. I just think you're still gambling, no matter how good you are on the feet, right? So play to your best strength and try to get in close, get him to the ground with one of those big takedowns and smash him. You're almost making me lean one way or the other. I don't have a side yet, but maybe we'll. And I should duly make that note. Is it Ribeiro's debut as well?
Yeah, contender series.
Yeah, so definitely interesting. Next fight on the card, we have Matus Rebecki coming in against Nick Fiore. We have some debuts. We have some wide lines. Really, I don't know what to say about this one. We have a guy coming off the Polish scene who's beat some pretty decent people, and we have Nick Fiore coming off of a pretty, I don't know what to say about his regional. Don't really know what to tell you about that. There's not much out there. I was only able to see a little bit. For you may have found a little bit more. I don't know if you're able to dig on this one. This one's more of just a show me spot. I want to watch it, see what these guys can do with each other. Really, the line is just ridiculous. I mean, I don't even want to, like, Unibet best bet is our best line is minus 625. Caesars is plus 500 for Fiore. So really, it's untouchable. It's just a show me spot. I'm confused by the placement on it. I don't really know what's going on with it, but I know I think it's partly because of Rebecki and his, coming out of Poland with all the hype, I guess. But what's your thoughts on this one? I'm not touching it. I don't even know if I have a side. Obviously, I think Rebecki wins. Sorry, but what's your take on this one?
I think Rebecki wins, man. I think he wins quick. I think he probably wins inside of the first round. Most of his finishes come inside of the first round. I think he's literally going to run across the cage, take him down. I heard another guy say this, so I apologize. I'm still in your words. But he literally throws overhand right to get a takedown. It's just kind of the way he approaches it. And the dude's got crazy power, and Fiore's fought literally nobody. I know everybody keeps bringing up Jay Ellis, the guy that's got a 15-99 record. Like, he fought the guy twice. Like, he's beaten literal cans. So I don't even know why the UFC signed him, to be honest. I think they probably needed him for this fight. But yeah, I think Rebecki wins, and I think in violent fashion in the first round.
Yeah, like, unless you're someone in the regional scene that knows something that I don't about Nick Fiore, then I think we know where this goes. It's just a line's too wide. Let's just enjoy it, and then maybe they can give Rebecki someone that's a little bit more of a step up in competition. Because I remember he did have a good showing at the Dana White Contender Series, but we shall see where it goes.
But next ironically enough, the guy that he beat on the Contender Series lost to Rebecki in the first round.
Interesting.
Random facts.
Next fight on the card, we have Matus Mendoza against Javid Basharat. Wow. So Mendoza coming in at 10-0-0 against Basharat 13-0-0. And man, this one's going to be a good one. I'm pretty excited about this. This is probably fight of the night. Both guys can stand and land some dynamic power. Dynamic striking is one thing when you can point fight a guy and land some, cool shots and whatever else, but everything is landed with intent from these guys. On the feet, this is going to be really fun to watch. And if it gets to the ground, Basharat he's just so dangerous. And I love opportunistic guys that just want to go for it. But if we look at this, so we have Javid Basharat right now. His best line is minus 350 at bet 365. And Mendoza is coming in at plus 295. For any of you that want to take the dog shot, the one thing I'll say right out of the gate on Mendoza, I think the only way that this probably finishes with him winning is if he caught Basharat with something. So it's not even almost worth it to get the value out of the dog money right there. It's almost just go all in on the KO if that's the way you wanted to actually touch it. If you want to actually fade Basharat, I don't suggest it. Mendoza does bring that danger. He does bring that potential, but what Basharat does well is he maintains that distance well. He maintains that range well and lands when he needs to land. He's a sniper, and he's got great scrambles if he wants to keep it on the feet. And if you want to try to take him to the ground or put him up against the cage, he's going to take your neck. He's going to take your arm. He's just willing to go anywhere. But I think he's just going to only gain steam going in this year and possibly might be one of the fighters of the year, or prospects of the year. So I will go with Javid Basharat, but the line for me still is too wide, but I don't mind trying to dig for something on this to try to find a finish. Maybe fight doesn't go the distance might be a play, but we'll see. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, I'm kind of shook by this matchup just because, I think with this guy coming off the Contender Series, he's got a lot of hype, and I just think that stylistically, this is a horrible matchup for him. I think the Basharat brothers are going to be a force to be reckoned with in the UFC. Both guys are super well-rounded, super dedicated to the sport, and realistically don't have very many holes in their game. The type of guys that you're going to need a real specialist to take out, and I just don't see that in his opponent here. I think that, I think with Matthews, the way he throws, wild and stuff like that, he's KOing everybody in the first round. And I think that's just going to be hard against a guy that's not very touchable like Javid. And I think it's going to propose a lot of problems. So I like the under as well. I think that if Matthews finishes, it's going to be early. And I think if Javid wins, it's going to be late because, as I said, the guy's just going to come out like a bull in a china shop. And if he can't get that KO, he's going to tire. And we saw what Javid can do in the second and third round. Whenever he starts to pour it on, like what he did against Tony Gravely, he can really put it all together. So
yeah, he's just a fun guy to watch, and I'm pretty excited about what he brings to the table. So next fight on the card, we have Alan Nascimento, 19-6-0, in a very wide-lined fight against Carlos Hernandez. And I sort of get the line a little bit, at least the momentum of the line, but not at the length, the width it's at right now, man. It's absolutely crazy. And so coming in, 3 wins and 2 losses in his last 5 fights. Carlos Hernandez, this is going to be an interesting one, man. I'll give you my take on this one in a minute, but just the line's so wide. I actually wish the line wasn't so wide because then we could actually break this one down a little bit more. Obviously, Nascimento's a guy you backed, and I think the Hadley effect is in play here, where that big win over Jake Hadley, who's a rising prospect, just sort of elevated this line. And what's your breakdown on this one? Take it away.
Yeah, I like Allen in the spot, but you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's both these guys are relatively not, I want to say inexperienced, but they're still coming up with your one. Carlos is only 29. They're both doing fairly well. And Carlos is a gamer, man. Whenever this is going to be standing, he's probably going to be able to get up his own shots. I think this fight goes to decision, and it kind of just worries me if you're holding a minus 350 price tag. It's just not, there's no value left on this one. So I think Allen wins. I think he wins by decision. But in retrospect, he's too complacent with being on the ground, and that's just where I get a little bit worried. I look back at that Tajir fight where I thought he won that fight by being more aggressive off his back, but it's what are the judges actually going to score? And if Carlos is able to land the better strikes on the feet, are you really going to be confident that the judges are going to score it right, especially after what we saw in the last 6 months? So
yeah, if this hits the scorecards, man, the dangerous thing is even if Nascimento's on top, is he active enough? Is he attacking enough? And if he's not, because I think he can get takedowns here. I think Hernandez's takedowns of defense isn't very good, but the reality of the fact is if he's not active enough and it hits the judge's scorecards, you're sitting with what, maybe a minus 400 ticket. I mean, or whatever decision you tried to figure out or whatever play you tried to run on this, just not worth it. Just worth to sort of watch and see if Carlos can, maybe surprise us in this one. If not, maybe Nascimento doesn't look as good as he did in the Hadley fight and we can get his line corrected here. Next fight on the card, we have Dan Argueta, 8-1-0 against Isaac Dalgarian, and Argueta's one loss isn't a bad one. If you want to really break down this fight, it's really, really simple. The guy on the co-main went toe-to-toe with the guy in the third fight on the card, and they went to decision. And, depending on what side you were on, I can't argue with you on it. You could have went Argueta. Some guys were going that way. I was on Damon Jackson 100% by decision. I think he won that fight. But Argueta is a gamer. He's a guy who fights for your money. He's a dog. He's got a gas tank on him. He's got a well-rounded set. He's got wrestling, and he's got some hands on him. And you're going to go up against a guy in Isaac Dalgarian who's got, he's got the grappling, right? We got some grappling with him. We know that he's a submission threat. But I think that Argueta's wrestling pedigree in that situation, I think, is going to be good enough to be able to run top heavy and just land some big shots if we're ever on the ground in that situation. I just think Argueta is a play in this one. If you look at the line, Argueta best line is Unibet minus 182, Isaac Dalgarian plus 165 at Caesars. And I mean, Dalgarian, if you look at any tape, it's just he's steamrolling guys, right? So this is why the line isn't maybe a little bit wider on a debut fighter. But I don't know, man. We could see Dalgarian proving us wrong, but I'm going to go with Argueta on this one. I think that Damon Jackson being a gauge, even if it was Damon Jackson's worst day, I think that's a good gauge on this one to really put Argueta in he is that level. So I think Argueta doesn't need to show me anything, and I'm going to take Argueta as a pick in this one.
Yeah, I like Argueta on the spot as well, but I will be honest when I say just because this is really a show me spot, the only thing I'm probably going to play on this fight is I'll probably take Isaac by first round submission, just because to me that's kind of his win condition. And with Argueta, he's going to come in very aggressive with the takedowns, and knowing what a submission threat his opponent is, there's that chance that he's just going to get caught up in a guillotine. But I think this is kind of one of these fights where you want to sit back. Both these guys, I think, have potential to be in the UFC for a long time, but it's kind of hard to gauge.
What's the over curtain sitting at?
The over?
Because commonly what we see here is you have a guy who's in Dalgarian, if he is that level, and he is a guy that can actually submit guys early, and he is, a very well-rounded set. But then, he meets a guy in Argueta who's a little bit of a step up. He's not going to be able to finish him in the first round if you lean that way, or it goes to decision. Either way, it doesn't get finished in the first round. So what's the over?
Sorry, I'm just trying to pull it up here. Yeah, I don't think it's one sec. Over under set at 2.5. The under 2.5 is plus 105. The over is minus 135.
Okay, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe closer to fight time, I'll hit that, over 1.5 marker, because they'll drop it. Just probably going to be a little bit juicy. Next fight on the card, I think, we'll just finish that one out. I think I'm with Argueta on this one. I think that Dalgarian could be the real deal, but I'm going to go with the guy who's sort of shown me already. Will I make him an official pick? I don't know, but it's probably one of my more confident, at least, pick a side situations.
Yeah, for sure. And just one that's actually on a playable line.
Yeah, exactly. Next fight on the card, we have Jimmy Flick. I retire, then I come back against Charles Inflated Price Johnson. We know that I'm a Charles Johnson fan. I love his slick boxing. I love that he's got that well-rounded set. He can push a pace on guys. Jimmy Flick coming in, knowing we know what he's going to try to do. He's got to get this to the ground. It's striker versus grappler. Retired guy. Is he coming back for the right reasons? I very rarely does anybody ever come back for the right reasons. So if he's not coming back for the right reasons, then is he training? I don't know. I didn't look into it so in detail if he's training hard, because the story of this fight is the line. The line moved and everybody talked about it on Twitter. The line was, I think, almost at minus 500 for Charles Johnson at one point. It's now come back down again. You can get Charles Johnson minus 346. Charles Johnson minus 346 at Pinnacle. Jimmy Flick plus 300 at Caesars. Either way, I'm staying off of it. Not touching it. Johnson should win this fight, keep it to the feet, and just land big, either finish it late or win by decision. But I'm not touching this one. What's your take on it?
Yeah, so for this one, I actually really like the under. It sits at -170. I think it's the best value in this fight because with Jimmy Flick, he's kind of submission or bust. We know that, but he doesn't have the wrestling chops to get it to the ground and actually make it competitive. And his striking is far from good. So it's either he's going to get a submission early, or Charles Johnson's going to take over when he realizes that Flick doesn't have the grappling to get him down, and he's just going to piece him up. So I lean Charles Johnson, obviously, leading with a -400 favorite, but I think Flick's live early, and if he doesn't get the sub, I think he's probably going to get TKO'd in the second round or early in the third.
Okay. I am with you on that. We will move to the first fight of the night, and we have a fight that I'm actually pretty excited about. We got Priscilla Cachoeira, lover or hater, eye gouges to knockouts to, fading her or backing her, whatever way you want to look at it, against Sijara Eubanks, who, a little bit of a vet, but 7-7, showing some issues with gas tank, and just not someone I can back when it's very evident. Somebody that actually I've faded and we've done pretty well with, as far as, even calling the second round or third round, I think, in one of her fights where she loses because she faded so hard. That being said, Priscilla Cachoeira doesn't always, step in there the way that she needs to, and she's shown some poor fight IQ at times as well too. Both girls have power in their hands, but I think Cachoeira's hands are better. Cachoeira 12-4-0, Eubanks 7-7-0. And if we look at the best line, Priscilla right now is the dog, +170, bet 365. Eubanks coming in as the vet with the better strength of schedule at -194 at Pinnacle. And I think that's the only reason, really. I think the ground submission maybe, and or just the strength of schedule gives us the line that we have. But I'm leaning dog in this one, man. First fight of the night, women's MMA. I'm leaning doggy, but you may find some value in the over under. What's your take on this?
I hate Priscilla Cachoeira. I think
I
she's
haven't
already.
backed her, but I think I think this is a spot.
I think if you're gonna take her, remember whenever we actually got real lucky? I think no, never mind. It's two different girls. But with Cesaro, actually no, what's Cesaro? She fought that girl. Can't remember who it was. We called the TKO late. Called the third round TKO. I think it was.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was at least rated the way it's not. But yeah. So like with
Cesaro.
well, John's gonna have a field day with this one. Shajara takedown defense. Whenever she ends up on the ground, she ends up eye poking and shit like that, and just kind of making a mess of the situation. Just kind of putting work, man. Do what she has to do. I think Priscilla, as you said, is probably live late, but at the end of the day, I think she'll be able to just take her down and control her.
I think she could maybe be live late. You think Cesaro is good enough to take her out?
No, because her only TKO win at the UFC level was Elise Reed. So Elise Reed can't stop a single takedown to save her life.
So. I think this is going to be a fun one to watch, man. I think there's going to be a lot more violence in this one than we think, and a lot less grappling than we think. I think this is going to be on the feet a little bit.
Well, then it'll be good to be on the Priscilla side.
100%. But maybe we found our one spot that we're on either side, and maybe we find a shoey bet.
Let's see. Maybe.
We'll think about it. Okay, let's go up to the top and just run down this really fast as far as picks. Sean Strickland, the lines may be creeping out right now. I think he's a pick, and if the value's there, I want to make him a podcast play.
Yeah.
Damon Jackson, he already is at a slight dog, and fight doesn't go the distance. I'm good with making both podcast plays.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to agree. Okay.
No, I agree.
Think we're on the same. I think we're on the same page with everything. Next, Roman Kopylov. Once again, I don't want to make too many podcast plays, but I'm feeling like that's a spot too. I just
if we're gonna do like a dog of the week type thing, I think Roman's the dog of the week.
Yeah, he is. He's gonna be the biggest value dog. I just think that Damon Jackson just may be the, it's a fight focused situation where we focus in on his money line, focus in on his over under, and do it like that. Kopylov definitely, I think, with the value, the biggest dog is biggest dog. Whatever the plus money that we're gonna lean with, that's it. So Kopylov being the dog of the week, I think, is a good play. Pennington would normally be a girl I would go to the well with. I think I'm just gonna sit back and watch this one. Agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so right now we're still sitting at, we have Strickland as a pick. We have Damon Jackson. Fight doesn't go the distance. We have Kopylov as our dog. If we look at the Umar Nurmagomedov fight, we're not touching that one. Al Hassan, are you making that a Nick pick or no?
Yeah, we'll go Al Hassan KO.
Okay. Al Hassan KO is a Nick's preferred pick. I like it. And we will stay off the Rebeski. We'll stay off the Javid Basharat fight. I just want to enjoy that one. We might find a play on that later in the week where it's crafty out later in the week, I think. Alan Nascimento not touching it. Arjueta is my side on this one, I think. That might just be our money line play of the week. What do you think?
Yeah, this is actually playable. So
yeah, money line play of the week, and I think we leave it there.
Yeah, I like it, man.
Okay, so just to quickly, so Arjueta, moneyline play of the week. We have Nick's play of the week is Abdul Razak Al Hassan by KO. We have Punahale Soriano is going to go down to Roman Kopylov, the big dog of the week in Roman Kopylov. We have Damon Jackson as one of our picks of the week. Also, fight doesn't go the distance. I think Damon goes in there and finishes him. And we have Sean Strickland as the last minute replacement coming in as our pick to beat Nasruddin Imavov.
I like it.
That is everything. And I know that we are running late tonight. So for Nick Eagle, I am Callum McGregor. We like to break down tape. We like to be able to line our pockets while lining yours. And, we are going to do our best this year to get better and better at understanding the lines and picking the best, cleanest spots that we can for you. And if you don't like it,
I'm about to beat the shit at this kid.
Hey, I'm UFC President Dana White, and you're in the ring with Callum McGregor.
To me, the Lions are the number one rankings out there. Those guys are the ones who really do their homework, you know what I mean?
For this fight, I'm telling you, it's a flip of a coin.
We did not tap.
Let's go!
Let's go!